Hi, and welcome back to Urbcast, to another episode, this time episode 239, with a guest who was here in the podcast exactly 139 episodes ago, because Mikael Colville-Andersen was here in the podcast in the episode number 100, in the anniversary episode, which we recorded 3 years ago. And I have enormous pleasure to have him back in the show after this whole time. Mikael Colville-Andersen is a known Danish-Canadian urbanist, urban designer, speaker, filmmaker, TV host, photographer, and, as he puts it himself, a dad. He made Copenhagen extremely famous as a bike city. He coined the term Copenhagenize, which was about turning other places around the world into something that resembles Copenhagen in terms of the bike quality, the bicycle infrastructure, basically making cities more friendly to cyclists. But interestingly enough, the last 3 years, Mikael was living and working in Ukraine, mainly in Kyiv, where together with the residents of Kyiv and other cities, obviously mainly Ukrainians, he was working on some amazing, fascinating, spectacular tactical urbanism projects, transforming, for example, Kontraktova Square in Kyiv, which is actually the biggest tactical urbanism transformation, as the Kontraktova Square is bigger than Times Square, which also undergone a big urban transformation many years ago. We are talking about some of Mikael's last projects, but also about how this time in Ukraine influenced him as a person, as an urbanist, and also as someone who advises cities worldwide on how to make them basically more people-friendly. Mikael is now temporarily back in Copenhagen, in Frederiksberg, so I used this chance to talk to him on the last 3 years and on his journey and very interesting time working with urbanism in Ukraine. So welcome to the newest episode with Mikael Colville-Andersen. Mikael, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It's been some time since we last spoke, and last time was about the funny event, the World Urban Forum in Katowice in Poland in 2022.
God, don't mention that. Oh my God, yeah.
That was very funny because it's been the time where we first recorded an episode about urban development of Copenhagen and your work with making biking in Copenhagen more popular and so on. And then you started a big debate on urban planning back then in Poland. And from what I know, you still meet some people coming back to those events.
That was just a reaction to this shit show that I was at. It was the UN Habitat Global Conference, and they chose Katowice as a host city. I was invited to come. I did a workshop with the Danish embassy in Warsaw. I had a reason to be there. And, it was just the most insane event. It's the UN Habitat. It's about sustainability. It's the swag bags, starting with that. Water bottle, non-recyclable plastic from China, the notebook that they give you, non-recyclable plastic covers. And then I'm sitting with this, it was just the patriarchy, it was all about, we have more women than ever before at this event. And it's still it was all a bunch of men in suits. And I was just shocked. And then I had never been to Katowice before. I love Poland, man. God, I've always loved Poland. France and Poland outside of Denmark are my favorite countries, culturally as well. And so, I just went, what is this shitty little place? And why did they choose to bring it here? And they blocked off streets to put up this event. It was just the most insane event for me because I'd never really been to some huge global UN event before, right? So it was kind of what is this world that I'm in? And so, I just went after Katowice. Some journalist picked it up and interviewed me, and then it just exploded in my face. So it hit people who don't know who I am. So, man, the hate the Polish trolls have is off the charts, man. I still get people showing up on my Instagram now just posting about Ukraine or something like that. And you can just say, oh, God, it's one of those dudes again. Just let it go, buddy. Yeah, that was wild.
I think that debate you started was very needed indeed. But I think some people got just, traumatized. They also got annoyed that there is like this Danish dude coming to Poland, and like he tells them like how should they plan their cities. But I started on this Polish note for a reason, because now for some years you are living in Ukraine, and you are working with urbanism there. And I'm really, really curious, how did it start for you? Because you are in Denmark now just for some weeks, but you will be back in Ukraine working with Ukraine probably. Could you tell me and the listeners, what changed the last couple of years, and how did it start with Ukraine?
Well, first of all, I was absolutely devastated by the full invasion of Ukraine. Like, it really affected me in a way that surprised me. I grew up during the Cold War, so basically everything they taught me to fear was happening on our doorstep. So I have anxiety disorder. I was just so messed up about that and couldn't sleep and really affected by it. So it was in April, 25th of April, 2022, 10:06 in the morning, this timestamp that has a lot of meaning in my life now. I got an email from urban planning colleagues in Lviv, and they were basically screwed in Lviv at that point. 700,000 people, same size as Copenhagen, and then they had 200,000 internally displaced people almost overnight, of course, people fleeing from the east and the south in the invasion. So a massive challenge for any city on the planet to have that many people show up from Tuesday to Wednesday, basically. So mobility was paralyzed. A lot of people brought cars, traffic jams, so many extra people, overcapacity on public transport. So they said, what do we do? These two urban planners, I didn't know them, but oh my God, like, what do they do in Europe? Oh, they ride bikes. Oh my God, bikes is transport. Of course, they have some bike lanes in Lviv. It's one of the more progressive cities. But let's talk to that guy in Copenhagen, right? Well known in this field for being the guy who designed cities for bikes, right? And they go, he'll never answer. Oh, like I'm fancy or something. Jesus, he'll never answer. He probably won't even see the email. And I remember getting that email at that time, and I went, oh my God, a personal and professional appeal to help Ukraine. Doing something that's in my wheelhouse, kind of. They said, can you get us used bikes from Europe? You guys got a lot of used bikes in Denmark and places like that. And I went, oh my God, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it. I answered right away. We Zoomed the next day. And then I set up a nonprofit called Bikes for Ukraine, bikes number 4, Ukraine.org. Somebody else has bikes, FOR, whatever. A lot of people had the great idea at the same time. But, and I said, okay, I don't know how to do this. So I know that in Denmark, we just have so many bikes that we throw away, like over 100,000 nationally, 30,000 in Copenhagen. Many of them go to police auctions, but many are just recycled, thrown away. We don't know what to do with them. So there's a potential there. So it was in July 2022 that we sent the first truck to Ukraine from Frederiksberg, City Hall Square here in my city, and bikes from private citizens donated, bikes from the police, another organization that sends bike to Africa. They helped us out as well. So those bikes went to Lviv, to internally displaced people who had left their homes with nothing, right? A suitcase. So just handing out these bikes to these beautiful people, adults and kids. What an amazing experience, just like the joy on their face because somebody gave a shit about them, and brought things all the way from Europe. That's kind of insane, dude. It was an amazing experience handing out bikes to these people who had left everything behind, and just the joy on their face. Like I'm not a cyclist, I don't get like, oh my God, the joy of riding a bicycle. I know I have some, pleasure when I ride it, but I'm not like that bike geek who just says, yeah, man, cycling's amazing, but just seeing the joy on their faces, pulling the bikes out of the vans, just people just grabbing them and disappearing on them, like going for a ride around the parking lot into a park. The kids were over the moon. So what a powerful experience to see that a simple, used, unloved, unwanted bike from that was going to be thrown away in Denmark was just providing so much energy, optimism, joy to these people. So then I started doing that throughout 2022, getting more bikes to Ukraine. And then I realized there was a more pressing need for these bikes the longer I spent in Ukraine. So all of the bikes that we deliver now are given to social workers and volunteers all over the country, who use them to deliver food, water, medicine, humanitarian aid to the most vulnerable citizens, right? For so many different reasons. The roads are destroyed. There's gas prices are incredibly high. A lot of cars have disappeared and things. So there's a lot of need. So bicycles arriving registered as humanitarian aid end up delivering humanitarian aid. That's amazing poetry. If you donate a jacket or a sleeping bag to a person in Ukraine, that keeps them warm. That's amazing. Keep doing that. But like a bicycle, man, they just keep rolling and rolling. And we've measured the effect of it. One simple bike in the course of 1 year will carry 18,000 kilograms of essential goods, which means that that's not in a van or a truck, So we're helping the logistics on this very, very subtle level. they'll ride like 11,000 kilometers. And these are social workers. These are women, in their 40s and 50s, built like tanks, and they're just hammering up and down the country roads, giving some medicine to the old lady in that village who can't make it into town. So the momentum metaphor of a bicycle, it really applies here as well. So bicycles are changing lives in Ukraine. They are empowering Ukrainians to help each other. And oh my God, tens of thousands of bikes are needed, but it's really tough with crowdfunding now. So it's kind of like, how do we scale this up? And it's a question I don't have the answer to just yet.
I think bike is definitely not an obvious choice when you hear about the war breaking out somewhere. My close friend, an Ukrainian based in Warsaw, he started an extremely interesting project similar to yours, but the one was about the windows, about collecting windows from the construction sites, because we basically in Europe, we just throw them out, and they were collecting them and sending to Ukraine. So basically, like after the bombs and the explosions, one of the first things that is gone is the windows, right? So they were like placing them there, and this is like such a great initiative, which is not. It's not money directly. It's not sending weapons. It's not sending some other aid. But this is something that really can improve lives of like daily life of people. But I wonder when you went there and you started to like talk with Ukrainians and you start some urbanism projects and tactical urbanism projects. Where do you see this like kind of urbanism on the some sort of a Maslow pyramid? Like how important it is to people to engage with urban realm still, while they have such a pressure of war and explosions and everything?
Well, you and I and most people have a home, right? Unfortunately, 14 million homes no longer exist in Ukraine. But I mean, like people have a home. They have a street outside that home. That is our domain, right? That's the square meterage of a city that we use the most. We're always going up and down our street. We're always going in and out of our apartment, right? So that is really a sign that it's not just the huge city that we live in. It's ownership over square meters outside of our home, right? You are the world's leading expert on the street that you live on. I'm the world's leading expert on my street together with my neighbors. I know every cracked tile. I know every garbage can that doesn't get emptied. You know what I mean? That's just negative stuff. Also the positive stuff, right? I mean, it's a city is our home, right? And parts of that city are even more ours, and that's with urban planning. It's often somebody sitting in an office 20 kilometers away deciding what happens on your street or my street. That's bullshit, right? We should have influence over, our domain, right? Our immediate neighborhood. So it's universal anywhere in the world. We all have that little sense of ownership over a part of the city that we live in. The city at large, right? I always talk about climate change and urban development done properly starts street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, right? You always hear this, oh yeah, but this city's so big. Yeah, you know what? You have neighborhoods, right? Like I've worked in Mexico City, like insane, 25 million people. It's just a bunch of tiny towns that are connected by roads. It's if you think about a city, more positively, that it's just a series of towns, neighborhoods, then, you're together in that neighborhood with those fellow citizens of yours, not on the other side of town, right? Hopefully they're doing some good stuff too. But, so you got to scale it down and be rational about it, right? Yeah, we're never going to fix, Warsaw, it's so big, or Mexico City or Bangkok. Yeah, no, but you can fix your neighborhood. And then the neighbors down the street are going to go, what do they do? Holy shit, we can do that too. Like that, it's just starting this ball rolling, right? Inspiring people through small urban change, tactical urbanism, doing whatever you can to change the bits and pieces. That always will lead to something greater. And I've seen this all over the world with my colleagues in my network. One little tactical urbanism project, putting a couple of benches on a forgotten, area of asphalt that the city doesn't even give a damn about. Boom, plants and benches. Oh, somebody in the next neighborhood says, we have a little piece of land like that. You know what I mean? Like it's up to us now, generally, the citizens. The cities aren't going to do anything. Some cities are better than others, but it's really up to us to take ownership, like real ownership over our streets, our neighborhoods, and then hopefully inspire other people to do the same, right? You gotta lead by doing.
I'm curious, and I think people are curious, how life looks like in Kyiv. And you gave this talk a week ago when you basically said life continues. It's obviously extremely different setup, but people do still live. They still go out. They want to have activities, and that's how you created some of very interesting tactical urbanism projects, some revitalization of parks. But how come? How can still people do it? How can they find the strength to basically be involved in projects like this, putting benches together, renewing parks?
Okay, so, well, like I came with bikes, still doing that, of course. Realize that there's other important issues, mental health issues. They're off the charts in Ukraine, as you might imagine, when you're constantly bombarded by missiles, drones, the threat of death, the threat of losing loved ones on the front lines, or in a bombing attack. I live in Kyiv, right? Kyiv is very well protected. It's the capital, huge circles of defense all around it. The more and more drones, Shahed drones, the Russians send in, it's kind of getting a bit sketchy because, when you send in 850 drones in one night, they're trying to exhaust the air defenses and also it's psychological warfare, right? The sound of these drones. But I've been all over the country, so it's way worse in other cities, in Kherson in the south, in Kharkiv, the second largest city. Jesus, they're getting hammered all the time because they're so close to the front lines, right? What is universal is that people just try to live their daily lives, right? In Kharkiv, so many schools have moved underground. That's not a good thing in the long run, but they've done an amazing job creating really hospitable places for kids to learn deep in a bunker. I realize that there is a shelf life for living in abject fear. We're not designed as humans to live in fear, right? You live in a war zone like in Ukraine. You live in Gaza, which is even worse. Oh my God. You have to always try to find the positive. You have to find the food to feed your family. You gotta fall in love, and you gotta dream of a better world. So that's what really it happens in a war zone. People just say, "Oh fuck it, I can't like live like this." So let's go to yoga. Let's go to a wine bar. And really life. It's a bizarre world. Like there's this expression from the Second World War, an American acronym, SNAFU. And they would write it on reports that came in from the front lines in the Pacific Theater in the Second World War. And the guys processing the reports are going, yeah, okay, snafu. Situation normal, all fucked up, right? Basically, that's another day, everything's screwed. So, it is a snafu world living in a war zone like that. The irony of it, you're aware of it as well. Like, you really, you go to the wine bar, you go on a date, you fall in love, you do whatever. And yet, that night you might die, that sounds dramatic. I live in Kyiv. It's very well protected, but still, I'm talking about the Ukrainian context, right? So what a weird fucking place to be, going to yoga, I've seen, from my apartment, I filmed a massive ballistic missile strike about a year and a half ago. It was 2 kilometers away, huge explosion, 30 people died. As it happens, I look out the one window at a police station, a bunch of cops sitting there smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. That's pretty universal everywhere in the world, I've discovered. They kind of looked down the road and went, oh, that was a big one, huh? I look out the other window, there's a girl walking along on her phone going to yoga with a yoga mat sticking out of her backpack. That's really, in a nutshell, what it's like, right? You have to live a normal life, and then you're going to wake up exhausted because they were trying to attack you all night long, But yeah, you just get to work, you go, dude, oh my God, intense night, yeah, crazy, whoa, right, let's get to work, And that's everyday life. It's bizarre to talk about it, just with you, but also to think about it, because it's not something I think about every day, you know what I mean? But that's really what it is. And that's an entire nation of people, right? Just going, yeah, this sucks. But, there's a cinema. Let's go to the cinema tonight, and then we have a drink afterwards, yeah.
And I think somehow in this bizarre way, people still find strength to create something together and to gather. And here specifically, I would love to talk about this notion of tolokas. So this is basically people, gathering to help each other out and do something together. What was your experience of that specifically in the context of doing urbanism?
Is that a word in Polish or is that a Ukrainian word?
It's an Ukrainian word. I think Polish people unite whenever there is a big crisis coming from outside. Definitely we unite and we help each other out, as we did help a lot Ukrainians in the very beginning of the war. But I don't think we have a specific word for that.
No, okay. I was just curious. It's a lot of similarities, of course. Yeah, toloka, great word. Wow. Sounds Japanese too, right? Ukrainian is great. There's so many words that sound like they're from another language. When you say goodbye, do побачення, it sounds like you're Italian or something. Toloka, Japanese. But toloka, man, great word. And it's just simply a volunteer event where, you have a cause and you say, yo, friends, come and help me out with this thing. Existed before the invasion, but off the charts ever since, right? I've spent time at tolokas for other friends, sewing camouflage nets for the front lines, packing rations for frontline soldiers, all manner of things you do, right? It's kind of faded a bit away now because things have become much more systematic. So larger scale actors are now organizing all this. At the beginning it was chaotic, right? But yeah, when I did my first sort of non-bicycle related project, I realized the mental health issues were off the charts. So I said, right, we have this thing in Scandinavia, in Denmark and Sweden, called a Nordic therapy garden. Therapeutic gardens have existed for many years. The Romans wrote about the importance of having a garden when you build your villa in whatever city in Italy, And so I realized that there was science that existed in Denmark and Sweden about how to take nature-based healing to the next level, like scientifically. A therapeutic garden will take off the edge of our stress, right? We should always spend more time in nature. You go for a walk in a park. We know this. This is science, right? And then some researchers here figured out how to hack into nature, and with some design interventions in a forested area, how we can actually heal mental trauma and PTSD. It blew my mind. That's not my field, but I read all of these studies and research in Danish and Swedish. I said, I'm going to do that in Kyiv, right? So I did it, 5,000 square meters of forest next to a psychiatric hospital. So it was a crazy project. Like I had some funding. I didn't know if I was going to get any more, but I said, this is important, right? It's basically everything you do. You just do it because you need to, because it's important. So yeah, I said, okay, it's April 24. It's a garden. I'm not the big green thumb guy, but I kind of know that spring's a good time to start, that kind of shit. And so I put it out on my Instagram, yo, toloka, right? Anybody want to come and help clear this land of dead wood and garbage in order to get ready for the design of a Nordic therapy garden? I thought I'd get 50 people. I got 500 people that weekend. Oh, it just blew my mind. 300 on Saturday, 200 on Sunday. We just rocked that. And what's this? It's mental health. It's a Nordic therapy. What? I don't know what it is. It sounds really irrelevant to our situation. Ukraine is what people were probably thinking. So they just rocked up and helped. So all of the projects that I've done, these urbanism projects, tactical urbanism, therapy gardens, community gardens, these things I've been doing the last year and a half. It's like with, I don't know even how many volunteers, let's say 2,000 volunteers have helped, most of them Ukrainian, a lot of internationals this year, but it's just the most rewarding experience of my professional career. And people, I always wonder if it's Danes. I think the Poles would show up properly and work hard, but I'm wondering about the Danes if they had to do this. Like, I don't know, shouldn't the municipality take care of this? I mean, I pay my taxes. Like, can't somebody else do this work? Denmark's so fucked if we get invaded, dude. Generally, but yeah, I mean, it's just this volunteer spirit that has lifted Ukraine a little bit farther out of the mess that they're in. People getting together and saying, "Yo, we need help to do all of these different things," and they do it. It's so amazing.
How much of that is basically possible because of the war and this extremely fucking hard situation that Ukrainians, that people living in Kyiv and other cities have? Like as you say, would it be possible to do urban transformation, tactical urbanism on that scale and that level of engagement in other cities in Europe, in other countries?
Amazed me, and that was already way back in November 22. I'm in Lviv, and that's when you plant trees, apparently, right? October, November. And I'm walking along, and there's a whole row of newly planted trees. I'm going, there's a war? Did anybody tell you guys about that? And yeah, they're going, yeah. I have a friend who's in urban planning. He's going, yeah, you have to plant trees. It's the time of year to plant trees. It's in the budget, so we're going to do it. I'm going, yeah, but there's a war, and yeah, nobody cares. And in other cities during the winter, the sidewalks are plowed, right? So that you can walk on them in the middle of a war. Everything, the municipal services still just function like nothing else happened, which is also very, very inspiring. To see that it's not just people hiding in shelters and cities pausing all essential services because a ballistic missile might strike tomorrow, so let's not bother. It's the opposite. It's like this intense insistence on, again, normal life from a municipal level. We have to pave that road. We have to plant those trees. We have to landscape that park. Duh, right? Especially the importance of all these things for the mental well-being of the citizens, that they feel that life is normal. Oh, the sidewalks were plowed on time today. Amazing, right? There's a war, but that's important to me because I literally have to walk to the metro to go to work. You know what I mean? It all reverts back to the simple needs we have as urban citizens, right? And if that still functions, man, that is also, in a way, positive for mental health. That you feel like the city's still, oh yeah, I hate the mayor, he's stupid, blah, blah, blah. But you still, okay, at least they're plowing the sidewalks and planting trees. Cool, right? That is also a mental health intervention that cities in Ukraine continue to function despite everything that's being thrown at them. Yeah.
I would love to continue that train of thought and ask you about some inspiration that could be shared, by the Ukrainian citizens, Ukrainian cities with other cities in Europe, but not only, because I feel like we should learn from that situation a lot. And I think too often we try to give the lesson to Ukrainians, like back in 2022, I think it was already, Norman Foster said that he will design the new master plan for Ukrainian cities. And I mean, it's like very patronizing.
Fuck Norman Foster, first of all. That's just my general comment about that guy. Yeah. Oh, he saw an opportunity. He's looking for a legacy. I think he zoomed with the mayor of Kharkiv. It was mostly Kharkiv. Every week and master plan, like the city's, Kharkiv's a really cool city, right? In many ways. Like, why do they need a master plan? He was kind of hoping perhaps that it would get completely flattened like Gaza City or something so he could rebuild all of his stupid glass and steel crap. But yeah, he saw an opportunity. Then some other fancy architects who apparently, the gossip, I don't know who these Italians are, but they don't like, the one guy doesn't like Norman Foster. They've always hated each other. He's not one of the famous guys like Renzo or whatever. But and then they said, oh, we want to do that too. So they said, let's help Mykolaiv in the south. So they're on this UN for Mykolaiv. Norman Foster's on this UN for Kharkiv. So it's basically like a little kindergarten for architects. He's going to do it, I'm going to do it too, right? That's so fucking funny. That level of focus on helping Ukrainian cities, it's so far away from me and the volunteers that I work with and my work. It's like it's the Starchitects. It's this atmospheric thing. Like they're just so far away, and they're not doing anything until the war's done. Right? I'm building shit now because Ukrainians need this stuff now. Right? So. Then when I realized that this is all after the war, like, oh my God, like what the fuck? Like seriously, dude, like people need help today with windows, right? They need windows replaced. Denmark's great. Like Denmark takes care of Mykolaiv. Truckloads of plywood and window frames go down there every winter, when the Russians are going to attack again, and weaponize winter. And, Denmark's ready. Other cities as well, so yeah.
So like instead of like saying, oh, like Ukraine, like this is how you should rebuild your cities, like what would be the lesson that we could learn from Ukraine for, the development of cities in other places, in other European countries and so on?
I think the most inspiring thing for me is that, life continues. Again, urban development continues during a war. And one of the projects I just completed, well, it's still running, but the world's largest tactical urbanism project, where we took 11,000 square meters of historic square, neglected for decades. Yeah, that's why I call it world's largest. Times Square, 2008, they closed off all the streets to traffic. They put out some benches and chairs, temporary urbanism, tactical urbanism, said, oh, what's going to happen? Massive success. They made it permanent, right? So they had 10,000 square meters, and I had 11,000 on Kontraktova Square in the heart of Kyiv, the most historic square in the history of Ukraine. Just neglected for decades, just asphalt, and that was it. Wasteland. So we flipped it, and we have like the world's largest tactical urbanism project there now. Benches and trees and plants and activities, and just the response has been overwhelming. My point was, like, we did this during a war. Like the mayor of London, I saw him on Instagram the other day. Look at Oxford Street. Yeah, we just transformed it. We flipped it into this tactical urbanism thing. I'm going, bitch, please. We did the same in a fucking war, and with volunteers, and nowhere near your budget. Like, so that's what is inspiring, that you can still really make effective urban change during a war, knowing that you're going to lose sleep that night, and one of your friends might die in the front lines tomorrow, but you still do it. And, if we can do all that in Ukraine during a war, then why are other cities around the world not doing it on a Tuesday? You know what I mean? Like, that's really the point I try to make. Is like, every city needs the stuff that we're doing in Ukraine. Oh my God, all over the world. And if we can do that on that budget, proving, that tactical urbanism is this low-cost, fast, effective intervention to bring dead urban space to life, large and small. Like, why are you not doing it? Like, why is this not just an official thing in a city, a policy to allow activists to go out and do these things, and then follow up with policy? You know what I mean? I think the mayor of Mykolaiv in the south, I met him back in 22, and he's a super cool dude, fluent in English, not like your regular Ukrainians I'll rephrase that, not like your regular Ukrainian politicians, which you always have this vibe of like, how did you afford that car exactly? The whole massive corruption problem in Ukraine, right? But this guy's super great. He says, yeah, Michael, like half my population's gone. And when they come back, I want to have a better city waiting for them when they arrive, right? Not just the rebuilding of the schools and the homes and everything, which Denmark is assisting in, but just like urbanism, right? And he comes to Denmark every summer to our democracy festival out on the island of Bornholm. He's charming. He's got beautiful blue eyes. He's a good-looking guy. The ladies are like, "Oh my God, he's so amazing." And that quote from him, I think about it all the time. Why wait, right? People need stuff now, and the stuff that they can have now, like better urban situations, tactical urbanism, or planted trees, or plowed, snow in the winter, it has such an important effect. I think that's what I've learned the most after 3.5 years really working in Ukraine, is that, urbanism is a tool. We know this, right? I should know this, and I do know this, and you know this as well, for making urban lives better, for improving our cities. But it is a medicine in a war zone, right? The volunteers that just never stop showing up to help me, the Ukrainians, why are they there? They're there to help their fellow citizens. But I know that so many of them are doing it for themselves, right? The simple act of planting a tree, watering the plants that you planted in that last week, building that bench that somebody's going to sit on in the shade where there was no shade or bench before, that is a medicine. People using the facilities after we do it, that is a medicine, right? It takes our mind off all the shit that's being thrown at us. If it's, for 15 minutes, an hour, then that is a medicine, right? It's like some sort of urban therapy, you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, that's what I think the coolest thing about being in Ukraine for that long is that I've learned so many new things, right? I know a lot of stuff. I'm the guy who, does podcasts about the stuff I know, but I have just learned in my mid-50s, so many things that are incredibly important about my work, not my personal work, but my profession, and also just a whole bunch of stuff that I just didn't realize, that how much of a medicinal value urbanism can have in a war zone, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's any other war zone or disaster zone, after a hurricane in the States or an earthquake in Japan. It's the same thing, man, right? It's just the importance of the profession has elevated itself in my head. I have so much more respect for it now,
A lot of what you are talking about right now while working in Ukraine is possible due to the sense of urgency. War is basically just around the corner, right, for many Ukrainians in cities like Kyiv. And you feel this sense of urgency. You want to show up. You want to collaborate. You want to build something together, create some sort of a legacy. I think that across other European cities, we can discuss Copenhagen, we can discuss Warsaw, I guess. I think that people are just getting, tired and lazy, and they don't want to be involved that much in the urban planning process. And you've mentioned you were poking fun at this kind of Danish approach that, I'm paying the tax, so the municipality should take care of that. And I'm obviously not saying that there should be, war expanding to other cities, but do you think that there can be some ways that people can get more motivated to be responsible for the cities they live in?
You can speak for Poland, right? Well, I guess I can as well, other countries in Poland. I mean, there's still so much activism, right? Which is great. All over the world, people are just sick and tired of inaction from their municipality, from their politicians and their municipal services. So we're going to do it myself, right? We're going to get some neighbors. We're going to plant some trees or whatever. My TV series, The Life-Size City, 4 seasons of that was basically only interviewing people who were doing that. And that means that there is really a movement. And that's what I discovered making that series is it's a thing. It's in a neighborhood that you've never heard of in Buenos Aires. It's in downtown Tokyo. It's all over the planet. People are going, can't wait anymore. Let's just do it ourselves. And it's not a movement with one catalyst, one blog post or one book was written and said, hey, let's go and do that. No, it's just this collective standing up and saying enough is enough, right? So being shut out of municipal decision-making started with car-centric urbanism, right? The scale of development was massive. We have to build motorways and tunnels through mountains and interchanges. And that just pushed people completely out of the picture. We lost all influence and ownership over the way our cities were developed. So that apparently has a shelf life of about 70 years. And people are going, enough of this shit. It's time we got to do stuff by ourselves, right? So that is a beautiful thing that's happening all over the world. Yeah, different in Copenhagen. So well managed. I am so happy to be back here and just see such a well managed city. But yeah, It's really this, when you pay 50% in tax, 60% in tax, you kind of expect somebody to take care of it. And they do. The garbage cans are clean. Everything's perfect here, right? It's really amazing to be away for 3 years and to come back and see your city in a completely different light and realize that. But then, I'm going, these people are fucked if there's an invasion. Just the drones that hovered over Copenhagen airport like a few days ago. You just like the police are going, I don't know. What should we do? I don't know. Like really? 3 years of war in Ukraine, incursions by Russia, provocations by Russia all over like Europe, hybrid warfare, and you don't know how to take out a drone. Like I can buy one online in the Ukraine where you get this like a gun, but it shoots a net, right? So it has 4 weights on it, and it expands as you shoot it. I'm sure like it exists in hunting and stuff like that. Like, why don't you just all have that on your belt if you're working at the airport? Oh my God, I tweeted. No, I didn't tweet. I don't tweet anymore. Fuck Elon Musk. I Instagrammed, like I just made fun of the Danish police. Like, how completely hopeless is it? And then yesterday, same thing at Aalborg Airport. Same drones just went, just going to hover here with all our lights on. You don't know what to do, and we don't know what to do, right? What I think the greatest thing is that Ukraine is the victim still. Oh my God, and has been the victim for 3.5 years since the full invasion. But now they're going, you guys need some help with that, right? Like, because we got some experience with drones, and so Ukraine is going to emerge as this military powerhouse because they've literally figured all this shit out, right? They started the whole drone thing. The Russians, unfortunately, scaled up and have bigger resources. But something like 80% of all the dead Russians were killed by drones, like whether they're in a car or a tank or on foot. What, you know what I mean? Like that's a lot of dead Russians. But it's Ukraine is just going to be like they're going to be the coolest kids on the European bloc now. Once how do we shoot down a drone at Copenhagen airport? So that's a cool thing that's coming for them, right? This expertise where we're not going to look at, you poor little Ukraine, you got invaded. No, we're going to try and help you. Here's some food and here's some guns. But the Ukraine's going, you guys are so fucked. And we're going to help you, right? That's going to be a great thing. I'm not an investment guy, but I would totally be investing in all this kind of drone stuff in small and medium-sized companies in Ukraine if I was that kind of guy, because they're going to rock it later on. But we're not prepared. I think Sweden and Finland are way more prepared and always have been because they haven't been in NATO. So they know how to prep. They know that they need a stockpile of supplies, and they all do it. Denmark now, they've said, you better have 3 days of food and water and a radio. And I just saw an article like most Danes haven't even done that. My ex-wife has. Oh my God, I'm so impressed with her. I got everything. I got cash. I got everything. Right? If this system. The most digital nation in the world. We rank number 1 every year. Denmark, Singapore, Estonia. Like if the whole net shuts down here, it's going to be like fighting in the streets, because nobody knows how to deal with it, right? So I'm making sure my kids and my family know how to deal with it, having cash on hand. You Eastern Europeans know all this. Like I have a friend from Slovenia. She's going, oh my God, I always have cash. You know what has happened to us in Eastern Europe throughout history? We have cash, we have food. Like you guys have just figured it out, right? But we're going to be so screwed. So
I think it's an overall like a great wrap up that we should learn from Ukraine, from the work that has been done, also by you in terms of urban work. Instead of just pointing fingers and saying like this is how we do it, and this is how others should do it, and this is how Ukraine should rebuild. Like we shouldn't just.
We've spoken for 3.5 years about how resilient the Ukrainians are. And it's true. Like they are the most resilient nation in Europe. Absolutely. The way that they've been tackling this, regular citizens I'm talking about, as well as military, everything, since the full invasion. It's just an inspiration to the rest of us. So there's so many things that we can learn. But absolutely resilient, but man, people are tired. I can tell you that. This is I did some great projects, man, and we're Ukraine is inspiring. People are so tired on the streets. You talk to all your friends. There's been no good news for like a year and a half, except for the amazing spiderweb drone attack where they popped out of trucks in the middle of Russia, and that was amazing. But I was like, that's all we've had, right? We're kind of done, with being resilient. A friend of mine, she said that to me once. She said, like, Michael, I'm just so tired of waking up every morning and having to be a resilient Ukrainian, I just want to wake up and be like a woman, who goes off and goes to work and just lives a normal life and thinks, well, what am I going to eat tonight? Go to the supermarket. Maybe I'll make pasta. I'm so sick of it. And then I discovered this Finnish word, and I put it on my Instagram a while back. I said, yo, Ukrainians, you still resilient? And here's the definition of resilience. Or are you this Finnish word, sisu, which basically means when you don't think you can go on anymore, there's no hope for anything, but you continue because you must. And it was, humor. It was humorous. And a lot of Ukrainians go, oh, I'm totally Sisu now, man. I'm done with resilience. Like we need some wins. We need like some amazing news to bring back the hope, like blowing up the Kerch Bridge or some amazing land grab where the Ukrainians reclaim a whole bunch of territory. We did, man. That's really what kept things going for so long was like the news. Oh yeah, we took back some villages. We went into Kursk. Not we. I'm not Ukrainian, but one of the Ukrainians went into Kursk. Okay, that was a crazy bold move. Whatever. But there's been nothing. So yeah, it's a little bit more Sisu now, and maybe a little bit less resilient. But people are strong, right? Oh, so tired, but really strong. That's really the word from the street in Ukraine. All over the country. But yeah, we need some action soon.
Thanks for joining me again on the podcast. And definitely, I wish there was another occasion and motivation for us meeting again than you moving to Ukraine because of the war and the work associated with that. But it is what it is. And thanks again for sharing, what you have been doing there. And as I said, like, I wish I can help you somehow. And I hope I can help by spreading the word of the things that you do. So we'll also add the links to the description so people can follow.
Yeah, I mean, there's, amazing support for Ukraine in the first year. I mean, all the crowdfunding-based stuff I do, it's kind of disappeared now. But, if there's another time when it's necessary, it's now. There's so much work to do. You got 40% of Ukrainians who still need regular humanitarian aid, right? More bikes to Ukraine, more urbanism projects. We're proving the point that such things have an enormous value on the lives of regular people. So yeah, not everybody has to come. Well, if you want to come to Ukraine, I'll drink with you. If you're coming there, absolutely. But I mean, remember that you can do stuff, whatever you can give to any project or any organization that you support. I mean, you got to remember it's still very much needed. So thanks for the time and spreading the word, buddy.
Thanks for listening to our conversation with Michael. And if you would like to support or get to know a bit more about Michael's work, please visit his website. It is added in the episode description. I think that, the work that he has done lately in Ukraine is extremely inspiring. So when I just got to know that Michael is coming back to Copenhagen and Frederiksberg for a bit, I just knew I need to talk to him. So thanks a lot for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay safe.